Our top story this hour, unexplained leaks in two major pipelines from Russia into Europe have become a major cause of concern for the European Union. The pipelines that supply gas to Europe have reported leaks. This is the Nord Stream 1 and the Nord Stream 2 pipelines, which are under the Baltic Sea. The leaks were first reported on Nord Stream 2 on Monday, prompting Denmark to restrict shipping within a 5 nautical mile radius, as well as imposing a small no-fly zone over the region. Similarly, Sweden also issued a report about these leaks. It discovered 2 leaks on Nord Stream 1. Denmark's armed forces also released a video showing bubbles rushing to the surface of the Baltic Sea. The bubbles could be seen above both these pipelines. Germany, Denmark and Poland suspect this could be an act of sabotage.
Today we faced an act of sabotage. We don't know yet all the details of what happened, but we see clearly that this is an act of sabotage, an act which likely means a further step of escalation of the situation in Ukraine.
Swedish seismologists have come up with an assessment. They say they detected some explosions near the Nord Stream pipelines. Apparently, they happened in the same area as the gas leaks. Ukraine, which has been at war with Russia since February of this year, says Nord Stream gas leaks are a terror attack carried out by Moscow, while key European leaders are crying foul, hinting at a potential Russian hand behind the leaks. Moscow has hit back at Europe, but making the same claim, accusing Europe of sabotage. Russia also says it fears that the Nord Stream pipeline could have very well been sabotaged in that continent. Russia says it's extremely concerned about these leaks. The Kremlin spokesperson said the leaks affected the energy security of the entire continent. The United States has come forward and said the country is ready to provide support to Europe after the leaks were found.
The leaks are under investigation. Their initial reports indicating that this may be the result of an attack or some kind of sabotage, but these are initial reports and we haven't confirmed that yet. But if it is confirmed, that's clearly in no one's interest. Now, my understanding is the leaks will not have a significant impact on Europe's energy resilience. And what's critical is that we are working day in, day out, both on a short-term basis and a long-term basis, to address energy security for Europe and for that matter around the world.
Europe suspects sabotage, as we said, on the Nord Stream pipelines that Russia and European partners spend billions of dollars building. For now, it certainly stacks up problems for Europe as winter is fast approaching. Leaders of the European Union are trying hard to avoid a looming energy crisis, and if it fails to do so, blackouts, shuttered businesses and factories, as well as a deep recession could in fact follow and become inevitable. For more on this story, we're now joined by our correspondent Rosie Burchard from Brussels. Rosie, goes without saying that this is a matter of grave concern for Europe, especially given the spiraling energy crisis with winter now just weeks away. But fact of the matter is that Russia and Europe at the moment seem to be trading charges, both accusing each other of sabotage. What initial information do we have at the moment? Is there any real evidence of sabotage? Of course, an investigation is currently underway.
Well, as you said, investigations are underway, and certainly here in Brussels, the message from officials in the European Commission headquartered in this building behind me was very much one of wait and see. Officials there were cautioning that it's far too early to say one way or another, to lay blame at anyone's feet, or to even indeed confirm that this was a case of sabotage. We've heard certainly suspicions expressed by officials and leaders of several European countries. Now, the most forthright so far has been Poland's Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, who said this is sabotage, though he hasn't offered any explicit evidence for that. Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, on the other hand, says that the scale of this incident seems like it's too far to be just a coincidence, so is not ruling sabotage out. But certainly the message on the record from officials and leaders here in Brussels, for the most part, is one of that they cannot say for sure yet who is to blame for this, if someone is to blame for this, if some nation is to blame for this. Of course, though, there is certainly a lot of suspicion behind closed doors, as you mentioned, that suspicion that Moscow may be to blame, though, as you rightly pointed out, also similar messages coming out of the Kremlin saying this is a source of grave concern. But one thing which is for sure is that this comes at a time of a deepening energy crisis for this European Union due to its long-term heritage of reliance on Russia for energy supplies. Since the invasion of Ukraine, EU countries have been trying to wean themselves off of dependence on Russia. They've sanctioned some Russian energy imports, and they've also tried to sign new energy deals to replace some of those supplies, but they haven't managed to entirely cover them. And as you said, the winter is fast approaching here in Europe, and there are genuine fears that this energy crisis will deepen as energy prices across this bloc continue to soar and hit households and consumers and businesses, certain businesses, very hard.
Right. Now, Rosie, as you mentioned there, clearly all sides are expressing concern, even as they continue to point fingers at each other. We'll have to wait for the investigation to be completed before we know what really happened, whether this was indeed an act of sabotage and by whom. But the bigger issue at the moment, as you just mentioned, is the almost unprecedented energy crisis that Europe is currently witnessing. We've seen with spiraling inflation, households are already being hit hard, and there are clear concerns now that many people, many households in the months ahead could in fact have a very, very hard time. Many people may not be able to afford heating. Just give our viewers outside of Europe a sense of the gravity of this crisis. How bad is it?
Well, I have been just in the last few days out in the streets here in Brussels where people have been protesting in their thousands. Unions took to the street to demand more urgent government reforms. They asked for a nationalisation of energy companies. They've asked for a hike in minimum wages. They want to see government take more action. And I should say governments across Europe are taking action. Over the past year, according to the economy think tank Bruegel, EU governments have spent hundreds of billions of euros trying to shield households and businesses from the worst of this energy crisis. Now, wholesale gas prices in Europe are about double what they are in Asia. They're 6 to 10 times higher than what they are in the United States. And this really is hitting people in their pockets across this European Union. Inflation as a whole is now in double digits, around 10%. Here in Belgium, it's around that as well. And people are calling out for more help. Governments scrambling to answer these citizens' requests. For example, here there's been a furlough scheme unveiled for businesses that would otherwise be at risk of entirely shutting down production because their energy bills are so high. There will be winter fuel subsidy payments for low and middle income households to try and help these households weather the storm. But I think you really used the word unprecedented. This is certainly what a lot of people feel here in this continent. They were not expecting the prices to continue rising. This crisis started before the war in Ukraine, and since the fallout of the Russian invasion of Ukraine has been felt increasingly across this continent, prices have continued to skyrocket. And of course, most important to say, it's the people at the lowest end of the income spectrum that feel this the hardest because they spend a much higher percentage of their income on energy bills. Now, governments are trying to and have been told to by the European Commission to target those households that are most in need. One of the measures being considered at the European Union level is what's effectively a windfall tax. So those companies that are making excess profits, much higher profits than expected because of these rising energy prices, to skim those excess profits, cap the revenues and try and redistribute that into households. But of course that is easier said than done. The measure is not yet in place, and for those households that are in need, more help simply can't come soon enough.
All right, Rosie, thanks so much for getting us all those details from Brussels. Clearly, this continues to be a big concern for Europe, and we'll really have to wait and see whether the leaders can, in fact, come together to resolve this issue as winter approaches fast. Thanks, Rosie, for those details.